welcome to our workshop today at the AFS conference. This workshop is a customer spotlight session where we're featuring Super King Markets, one of our AFS customers. We're calling the workshop From the Flintstones to the Jetsons. And the reason why is when Super King first came to AFS, they had some operations that were in the Stone Ages, the way that they put it. They needed to modernize, they needed to get better, and they needed to get faster with a lot of things. So they came to us, and what happened then over the course of implementing the AFS software was really an entire organizational transformation. It was a really neat thing to watch as this organization that was once very manual, very paper-driven, was able to be transformed through AFS's software solutions into an automated solution that was a lot leaner and quicker than it was before. So to present with us today, we have a couple of individuals from Super King's operations. We have Wayne Geffen, who is the VP of Finance, and we have Keith Pengel, who is their warehouse director.
Just by way of background, in 2012, we had gotten together and said, we need to look at what our growth is. We need to look at finding solutions that were going to give us one software provider to cover all of our bases. And there's obviously lots of people out there, people doing different things. And again, some companies are a billion-dollar company, some companies are very small. And what we liked best about the product was it gave capability to make it scalable. So you had the opportunity to work with it, but it also gave you a lot of opportunities from there. Again, we started with ERP. We signed our contracts late in 2012. We implemented ERP in 2013. Scott was our person on site helping us out. Anitha, also from AFS, was very helpful trying to get us setting the boundaries. And like anything, when you implement a new system, there's always people within an organization that say, what I have is fine. And we had Mass 200, and all the people on the finance side said, why are you changing it? It does exactly what I want. I don't really care to change it and everything, which again, many of you I'm sure have gone through or will go through from that point. So our thing was, no, we have to have something that's going to work. And maybe it'll work a little bit differently than what you're used to now, but it's going to be the right choice for us and help us go from that standpoint. So in the introduction, Brian had said that we operated 6 stores. As of 2012, we had 4 operating stores and we had just opened up a 5th store. So when we were looking at selecting software and everything, we said, what's really the path? How are we going to make it work? And then we made the decision, and we're glad we made the decision. It really took us to the next level, and in some cases challenged us. I was the project manager both on ERP and WMS, and with G2 as well, and all of us have our own skill sets, and a lot of us have implemented different systems, and from my standpoint, it's like, where are we going? How are we going to do this? So fortunately, we laid out a plan, we had a good session, and then we started working with it. So as you can see from some of the slides here, we had no inventory management system. And the way we have 2 distribution centers. First one is perishable, which represents a large part of our business. Second one is dry grocery and liquor. And the way it worked was the buyers had control of buying everything, bringing it in. And our warehouse team at the time, they had to work with it. And when you had a question about how much did we get in, go ask that guy. When you want to know that, go ask that guy. Well, are there any reports? Not really. Well, I can do this or I can do that, whatever. So again, depending on the size of your organization, you get the feel for things have to change and what's going to be the easiest way to do it. So again, no historical record of transactions. Certainly from the finance side, we could run things out of AP, we could look at the GL, we could do other things from that standpoint, but there really was no central repository to understand where we were. So again, pre-WMS, our stores would send in an order via Excel. The guys would print it out, they'd have a clipboard. They had a highlighter, and they would go through the warehouse based upon the availability of the product, and they would cross it off. And it wasn't unusual that our pickers would have 2 or 3 orders, because depending on when the product actually was delivered, to Ryan's point, produce, because we want it as fresh as possible, comes in many times. And our goal is we want the freshest product out to our stores. We deliver 3 to 5 times per day to our stores on our perishable product, because it's important to us that that's our business model. Our customers come to us for that, and we have to support it.
The pre-existing condition, I guess the best way of putting it, is it was almost like a scavenger hunt. There was no locator. The pickers had their pencil and paper and the clipboard. And if he had an order and I had an order and we both had it for the same item, if I went, and it was very limited, and I went to that item first, I wiped it out. My store got it, his store didn't. It was really difficult to be able to maintain levels, because you don't have a rain man per se to be able to look at all 6 stores and say, hey, each store wants 100, I have 200. What'll end up happening is everyone is just looking at everything esoterically, that it's, let's go ahead and find it, let's go ahead and find it. Ah, found it. I need 100, I grab 100. I don't know what the other stores have, I don't know what the guy next to me has. I wipe it out. Stores that get there last, unfortunately, didn't get it. So it was really hard to be able to manage, and to a certain extent, it was really hard to be able to find things.
And in addition to that, our old technology, and I use the term very lightly, was that you took a store and you did everything you had to do to get the store ready. Well, if any of you have been to LA and you've been in traffic, it's critical for those trucks to be on the road as early as possible. Our perishable warehouse basically runs from midnight to 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, or when the last order is processed. Again, back to the delivery of when we got it, but that's a story for another day. So it was critical for us to say, what's going to work best? How can we make it work so we can move to the next direction? And at the same point, to grow, which is critical to us. Okay. So again, locator system again was whoever the person was in that area. So if you were a produce person, you knew your area, and that's how you did it. And if somebody else came over to that area, good luck. But again, we were very successful. We got the product out to the stores, but that wasn't the best way that we could. So we said we have to move forward. We always have to move forward. We can't take steps backwards. And the one point about the warehouse is undersized. Because our perishable warehouse specifically turns the product very quickly, in some cases it could be on the floor for as few as 30 minutes. And a lot of the product, especially produce, maybe a day, at worst case a day. Other stuff a little bit longer. And we have coolers which were designed based upon earlier trends of some things there. If we were to start it all over again, we may lay it out differently. But again, as our store growth has happened, we've said we have to make the most use of it then. And just going back and forth with that. So G2, no analytical data. So I joined the organization in 2012, and I started trying to put together some things to say, okay, what makes sense, whatever. Not that I was a clairvoyant and said, well, let's see what happens here. But through my past experience, I had some ideas of what's going to be fruitful, what's going to make the company better from that standpoint. And it did help us. And it also gave us the idea, I had used other business intelligence software before, and it was like, we need something like that. We don't know exactly how it's going to work, but we need something like that to make it work better, so that we have more awareness to some of the stuff. KPI type of issues there. Well, what was it? I don't know. Go ask Charlie. Go ask Billy. Go ask Susie. We didn't have it. Again, from a sales volume standpoint, we could know that. And from a purchasing standpoint, certainly we could look at the AP data, or we could go to the buyer and say, how much did you buy this week? It's like, oh, let's see, and he'd run it through his head and said, $2 million, $100,000, whatever it was. But it wasn't, he couldn't do any comparisons with it. And it was like, again, wasn't a problem, Company had operated for 20 years up until that point, so what they were doing was good. It just, we set the bar higher and said, we have to get there. We can't just keep doing what we're doing. IT challenges. Our IT group, their primary function is supporting our stores, supporting corporate systems, and as different organizations have, some organizations have 30 to 50 people in IT, and they're specialists in each of the areas. We didn't have that, but when we were evaluating systems, we clearly said we need to go to something that's in the cloud so that we had more flexibility. And as updates needed to be made, it wasn't like, oh, let's take Joe, the programmer, off of this project and put him on something else. So it was a clear path that we said, that's the way we have to do it. And again, just to give you an idea, on AFS ERP, we have 32 users. One of the things we're real proud of is we have our buyers go to the produce market, which is just down the street from our building. And some of the challenges we had was they would make deals, they would get a piece of paper, but they would wait till they came back to the warehouse to enter the PO in the system. And the product, in many cases, arrived before that happened. We said, this is nuts. We have to operate better. So we talked it through. I know Jonathan and I, early on, had some conversations about, there's got to be something else out there. And I believe we said, OMS is doing something. Can we tailor it, trick it, whatever the word was, to make it work better? And we did. And we have it operating, so our buyers have an iPad, they walk through the market, they place their order, they send the order, it's there well in advance of when the truck is there, and it's made our life easier. Because we've set a mandate that we won't receive something if there's no PO. It just adds so much complexity, and because we're turning a lot of trucks, we might get 30, 50 trucks a day, making deliveries to our perishable warehouse type of thing like that. We had to find the best solutions that were there. WMS, we first started in 2014, and right now, just one warehouse, second warehouse, we're working out some things, certainly in the next under 60 days, 45 days, maybe we're trying to work with another software provider to coordinate with some things there. Discovery. We've had it. We've used a little bit of it. We have to do more. And Keith will talk a little bit more about it. He's gotten more into the details of it to see what we have from there. And again, just a SaaS-based environment was what we had and what we needed.
Let me back up a little bit, is to give you a little bit of background. I had a death wish about a year ago. I joined Super King 2 days before they went live. 2 days. Knew nothing about AFS, knew nothing about this particular WMS, knew nothing about the company, never worked in the industry. So I had to learn the industry, the people, the processes, and the software. And I was told, we're ready to go. So I literally had 1 day to really take a look at the operation and kind of get a baseline on how it currently works. The one thing that I have to stress is the way that we were doing things, we can't be scalable. It barely worked for 6 stores, but if we wanted to go to 20 stores, it would be absolute anarchy. That having a system like this, number one, you pick up a locator system. When you don't have a locator system, or when you're used to having a locator system, my world, it's kind of tough to operate when you don't have a locator system. The other thing is being able to prioritize and parse work. Huge, huge difference for us to be able to organize. It really was a race. It really was, I guess the best way of describing it was a scavenger hunt for the product. Now things are done in a very controlled, very concise, very deliberate way, which is incredible. When I got there, they were very successful. One of the things that makes Super King unique is a typical grocery store takes 1, maybe 2 trucks a day. Out of one facility, we're shipping 5, 6, 7 trucks, depending on where we are in the ad cycle. The produce is just absolutely incredible. The amount of cross-docking, 70% of what we ship out comes in that day. If we had to take in the inventory the day before, maybe 30% would fit in the cooler, if we're lucky. So we have a system that's completely predicated on being able to turn stuff very quickly. That's why when you go, or one of the things that we ended up doing very well that I hear in the other sessions is developing the cross-docking tool. Absolutely incredible. It's really been a godsend to us. They were very successful for 6 stores. Would we be successful for 7? Would we be successful for 8? The reality is we were pretty much on the brink of where the issues were. When I got there, I had some assessments. Number 1, first thing I asked, are you guys trained? Have you tested the system? They said, yeah, we trained the employees. When? 6 months ago. Okay. The testing plan, they hadn't gotten all the way through. They had thoroughly tested the inbound, but we had not thoroughly tested the outbound. So that was an unknown. This is also the first implementation of 2014. I didn't find out that we were the first to successfully do this until about a week after we implemented. I'm always very nervous about breaking new ground. But, and mind you, this all has a happy ending. There was this typical, the strong typical resentment to change. One of the things that I noticed, the employees were fine. They were well set as far as knowing that the system's coming in, that it's not to eliminate jobs, that it's to make their job easier. They're also the ones that have to do the scavenger hunt, so they know that it'll help them out. It was really the management team that I saw that had that typical resistance. And what I mean by typical is if you don't know it, especially going from a pencil and paper environment, where you have all the flexibility in the world and no rules, to a very rigid, you have to do certain things to make the system work. And then afterwards, they have to have it beat in their head that if you don't do these certain things, it's going to make your life very miserable in a WMS. So it's a change, and people are very resistant to change. The fun thing is my second day, the implementation team came in. They sat down and they're ready to go. This is AFS's team. And we sat down and they're ready to go, okay, let's talk about the implementation plan. And our team goes, well, we got some changes. And it was changes that they really didn't hear of. So we didn't have code freeze. Despite all this, we were able to put it together. The reality is the team came in, absolutely hardworking. We were dedicated. We're at the point that we're ready to go off the cliff whether we want to or not. As far as the implementation team, they came in, they heard the changes. We compromised on what we need and what we didn't need. What do we need day 1? What do we need a week later? What can we wait upon? And it's really important to be able to sort this stuff out. The good stuff. Cool heads prevailed. All these bad things we overcame. We implemented once, did not need to cut over. Prior to implementation, I was worried about it. The second that we started the implementation process, each day I became a little bit more confident that we're not cutting back over. And you have to remember, of implementations, I've heard numbers that roughly about half of them don't succeed. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is one that may or may not. But there's a lot of things that were ingrained that made this thing successful. Number 1, the flexibility of the software for the business. We implemented WMS in our most unorthodox. It's not a traditional warehouse. High cross-docking, multiple SKU locations, the high volume that we actually put through there. It's not a traditional warehouse. The one that we're doing right now is a traditional warehouse. Product comes in, may sit there for weeks, may sit there for months. 1 item per location, nice big racking. Warehouse is properly sized for what we do. The reality is, at the end of the day, in each of the coolers, we put everything away in the racks, and then we also cram every single aisle to the absolute max. But we still have the system manage all this. Good support internally and externally. Big commitment on the Super King side. Top down, This is what we have to do, guys. If you want to grow the company, you want to see the company succeed, this is what we have to do. From the AFS team side, despite the scary, they kept their heads pretty cool. They were very logical. We were very logical in this situation. We prioritized. The point is, you don't collapse in these type of situations. Implementations are tough. I've been through probably about 20 total between various systems, CRM, WMS. But on both sides, just thinking things through logically, prioritizing what's my biggest issue, what do I need to address. Putting together a really solid project plan. What needs to be done now, what needs to be done next. What are the dependencies? Making sure that you're allocating priorities to people's strengths. The complete commitment to success I kind of touched upon, and the team was very cohesive and organized. The AFS team brought in 4 people, 4 different skill sets, and they played to their strengths. Okay, the capabilities that we used is really think, and this is why we say from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. From an ERP standpoint, the way that things were done is we knew what we got from overseas. Orders would go down to the pickers, and we'd get a highlighted, marked up by pencil and paper, hieroglyphic order back. Then you knew I had 100 to begin with. When you add all these up, I shipped 75, I now have 25. But it's a very manual process to get you there. And then that 25 is just sitting in a warehouse, no one knew what it was. Is from an ERP standpoint, you pick up order management. We now have the ability to be able to look at what we have on hand globally. You have the ability to decide, do you drop it or don't drop it? We drop everything because we know that we're going to get a lot in throughout the day. So there is no inventory check. We have a perpetual inventory. We know what we have at any given moment. We can supply the buyers what we have at any given moment. We can even supply our buyers who constantly would go out and have people count. I want you to go count this. 20 minutes later, stuff moved. Need you to go count it again. It moved again. Need you to go count it at the end of the day. They don't need to do that. The system is aware of what we have. The system is aware of what we order. The system is aware of what we're picking. It's really easy to do a simple mathematical calculation. I have 100, we're picking 50, so at least 50 available. I have another 100 coming in on a PO tomorrow. Now the buyers can make decisions saying, I have 50 now, I'll have 150 tomorrow. What do I really need to do? From a WMS standpoint, the organization. Absolutely incredible. What we do today is we've taken away the pencil and paper system. We now have what we call planners. They come in ahead of everyone else and they look at, where am I? It's situational management. I've trained a group of individuals to do nothing but situational management. What is my situation for the day? We have a finite amount of space, so we can't pick too fast or we'll run out of room. But we can't pick too slow or the receivings will kill us. So they have to meter it. We have 6 stores, we have about 9 trucks. So once the trucks go out, we have to time it so that when a truck comes in, the store is ready. Not all the stores do the same volume. We have varying volumes throughout the week. We have an ad cycle that essentially begins on Wednesday, ends on Tuesday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are huge days for us. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are much bigger than Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. What they do is they really look at the full order profile. They look at the situation and they create a game plan. And that game plan is not the same every day. It's not even the same every Wednesday versus Wednesday. They look for ad product. They can prioritize. One of the things that we did to our stores is the warehouse literally did what they could to get everything out the door. So everything was sequenced however the warehouse found it. But a store, it matters greatly what they get first and what they get second. Their first truck hits them 3 o'clock in the morning. Stores open at 7, 4 hours before they open. You might be able to get 2 trucks in before they open. Stores sometimes have things that are out, some things that are not. They have ad product that sometimes they need. If it's on the first truck, it's there 4 hours before opening. If it's on the last truck, which hits at noon, that's 5 hours plus another hour or two to process. 5 to 6, maybe 7 hours after opening. We did not have any capability of doing anything for the stores. With the WMS, what we've done is we've invited the stores to sit there and say, when we hit in at midnight, I want you to tell me what you want first. I want you to tell me what you want second. I want you to prioritize for us, because we can slice and dice the order anyway. It doesn't matter to us what we pick. Now what we have is we have the ability to service stores like we've never serviced them before. Is we have the ability for the store to walk through and say, I'm low on this, low on this, low on this, low on this. That's the first thing we do. And that's what the planners do. Is the planners, we spend a little bit more time organizing. Why? Because we have the tool to be able to do it. We have the tool to be able to pick anything in any sequence we want and give it to any individual. And we use that to the fullest that we can. And this really is the biggest piece that helps us be the way that we can be. I mentioned before, you have 200 units of something that the stores order, each 100. You need 600. Well, how do you allocate it out? Well, number one, you need a rain man. The system allows us to actually do that. We have people that just take the time, go through, and edit the orders so that each store gets their allocation based upon what we decide or what the buyers decide. So now, instead of 2 stores getting 100 and 4 stores getting nothing, we have the ability of saying, you know what, we have 200. We have 6 stores. So maybe we'll give each store 33. Maybe we'll do 150, 120, 130, another 150, another 140, and another 110. That still adds up to 200, I hope. But the reality is, we have the ability to do all that. From a G2 standpoint, historical data. I live on historical data. Seasonality, fluctuations. What's actually going on? To sit there and have the approach of, we don't know what has happened, so let's try something new and see if it sticks, versus saying under certain situations, what does the data suggest? Some of the things that I saw in some of the other presentations is data modeling. I spent a tremendous amount of time with data modeling. You sit there, if you don't know what it is, you plan for an optimistic. You plan for a pessimistic. Somewhere in between is where you're going to end up. You have known data, you have unknown data. How do you find that data? G2 is allowing me to begin to dig into that. Now that we're stable with the WMS, even though we are implementing a second one, this to me has become huge. Being able to create metrics and measurements. We've never measured our employees, we've never measured performance. To run a facility like we do, a cost center, without having metrics, kind of ludicrous. And then having the strategic reporting and analysis. You always want to take a look at what you did. You always want to take a look at what you can do better. And Discovery allows us to be able to do that. So the results, like we've covered, the order and inventory control. We can manipulate orders any way we want. We know where the inventory is. Now if we have 20, 30 stores, I'll need a few more planners. We'll have bigger revenue to be able to support that. But the reality is we have the organization that we need to be able to deal with that type of scalability. The ability to facilitate the scaling business. That's where we're going. Without a system like this, it would have been really tough to be able to hit it. And it would have been tough to be able to hit it in an optimized manner. The analytics, where there was none. Phil, one of the things that we forgot to take a look at is we thought we were filling everything. The reality is, fill went up. And it went up for a couple of different reasons. A, we knew where the product was. And B, we ended up finding out that there were some other breaks in the process where not all the order was dropping. Since we had the ability of determining what drops, what doesn't drop, and determining the logic by which the system operates, we were able to find out that, you know what? Our ERP wasn't dropping everything. And then we were able to get more to the store. The reality is it just doesn't sell well in the warehouse. The allocations and managing inventory at a store level is we have the stores now dictate what we do. It's no longer we dictate what we do, and the stores, when they get the truck, it's like Christmas, they open it up and see what they get. The reality is they're the ones that is driving the business. They know what they need the most. They're now driving us rather than us drive them. Productivity, I ran some numbers at the time that I did the presentation. Productivity for what we do is up 24%. The point is, now that we stabilized, our head count is roughly about the same. We get it done in less hours. And then we also do it with, even though our head count is the same, a good percentage of those people are not picking. They're the ones manipulating what we do. From a picker standpoint, I'm running 24% less than picking. I was expecting it to be a break even. I was pleasantly surprised to see that there was an advantage. The reality is the WMS implementation on a scale this size, I would expect it to break about even. The point is the productivity did go up. The physical inventory we virtually eliminated. We used to have to constantly count the product because the buyers didn't know what they had. We now cycle count, and then we just give them a real-time report off ERP, where anytime they want, they push a button, here's what they have. 3 in the morning, they want to know what they have? Fine. 2 in the afternoon? Fine. They can place it. And then we have a much more data-rich environment. We're putting in the KPIs, the metrics that we really need to put in place for the go forward to run it as efficiently as possible. Planning WMS at a second distribution center. To me, this is a slam dunk. But we built in a few things where we really want to start integrating. We have our ERP talking with our WMS, but we have all of our retail stores that are in a different world. The point is with this implementation, we're also at the same time working with AFS and our partner that handles our point of sale to integrate the system so that we're no longer doing double entry. That ERP becomes our system of record for the inventory. ERP becomes our system of record for pricing. And then ERP, from an automated basis, is able to pass on that to the store level. And then also at the same token, be able to manage the shipments and treat the shipments to the stores like no different than any other third-party shipments. We're talking ASNs, receipts, enhancements to G2. I'm really looking hard at what G2 can do. From a business standpoint, we had licenses to G2, we really weren't using it. We now have some challenges that we're facing, and those challenges are really predicated on the growth that we're looking through, and then just some of the external factors, increased costs, etc. We have to be a little bit more analytical that I plan on using G2 to answer as many of the corporate level questions as we can. Integrate ERP to other processes and systems, that's just what I talked about. Expand the external business. As we do well servicing ourselves, one of the opportunities that we have is becoming more of a wholesaler, where not only do we service our stores, but we also service external entities. We do it to a small degree, but have we really realized the potential of that? With the WMS, we have the ability to organize ourselves to be able to meet the standards, to be able to get into that business and grow that business. So it's really another aspect of what we do that we now can handle because of the systems that we have. Provide strategic planning and decision making, having the analytics to be able to back up what we do. And then consider corporate expansion with scalability. We no longer have a constraint on how big or how small we are, at least systemically. Now you have the physical constraints, but it allows the owners of our organization to be able to make those decisions.